1244 BC, 2651 AM. In this year occurred the first overseas Israelite civil war, known as the Seven against Thebes. 120 years earlier, the Israelite Danaan flooded into the Aegean and took the city that they renamed Thebes. To the ancient post-Exodus Israelites, the name Thebes invoked respect and authority as the capital of Upper Egypt. Thebes was founded by a Phoenician called Cadmus, according to Herodotus, about 1350 BC, but this description was given to any Semitic seafarer in antiquity. The Greek alphabet came to Thebes by way of Phoenicia. This account was considered mythical until in 1964 AD, archaeologists at Thebes discovered in the Cadmeion temple roll cylinders with ancient cuneiform signs, the first cuneiform texts ever found on Greek soil. One of the seals was dated at about 1367 to 1346 BC, the exact time the Danites were moving in waves into the area. Cadmus is a Semitic word meaning eastern, and Thebes was the capital of Boeotia. Robert Graves wrote that the Boeotians were a Semitic tribe that had earlier moved from the Syrian plains up north to Cadmea in Caria, before crossing over the Aegean to seize Thebes. Cadmus was allowed to marry Harmonia only after 8 years, a probationary period imposed by the locals. The name Harmonia is suspect, a name reminding us of Mount Hermon in Israel. When Cadmus arrived in Boeotia, he fought against the Pelasgians. The Spartans were related to the Thebans and Cadmus, and this we find intriguing. Later it will be found that the Spartans, called Lacedaemonians in antiquity, were related to the Jews, who were descended from Judah. This connection is further seen in that Thebes had as its emblem the lion, as in Lion of the tribe of Judah. The Spartans in early stories were said to be born from serpents' teeth. The explanation is simple. Cadmus had a battle when he first landed, and many of his men were killed, but this was merely the expeditionary force with other fleets on the way. When the locals saw his losses immediately replenished with fresh and newer faces, a people with a battle standard of a serpent, the locals claimed that the soldiers were born from serpents' teeth. The Spartans even later wore a serpent badge. In fact, all the people of Cadmus had a serpent mark on their bodies, by which they would know each other. Anthropologists and historians have found throughout the Mediterranean, Aegean, Atlantic, European, and old Mesoamerican coasts, it was long known that the first primeval seafaring race were identified by the serpent, a people that became rulers and civilizers everywhere. This was the Israelite tribe of Dan, a name that means judge and ruler, and of whom the scriptures reads that they remained in ships. The prophecy concerning Dan was that he would be a serpent by the way. Even Graves notes that the Theban customs reflect biblical customs of the priests at Jerusalem. In 1244 BC, a change of kings occurred in Thebes, now a strong Israelite kingdom and member of the Sea Peoples Federation. No other cities of ancient Greece were members of this powerful league of Mediterranean traders. Mycenae of the Danaan, who arrived much later than those that settled Canaan, who were originally those that separated from Israel centuries earlier, sought to influence the Theban dynasty. The population of Mycenae was of Argives, Achaeans, and Danaan, who were on their way to becoming one people. Thebes, like later Sparta, were isolationists and not in the habit of assimilation on a grand scale. When the Thebans chose a king not of the Mycene dynasty's liking, the Theban War began, a short conflict known as the Seven against Thebes. Mycenae led 7 armies of combined cities against the city of 7 gates, despite the appearance of omens and unfavourable signs in the heavens, a comet. The Thebans beat the attackers off in an embarrassing battle that was a main source of ridicule in the later Trojan War that would start 5 years later. That the Thebans were descendants of the Israelites is seen in the calendrics. 1244 BC is half of 1288. The Annus Mundi year when the Israelites conquered the Canaanites in 1407 BC, Israel being badly outnumbered. In this year the Sodom-Trojan Apocalypse comet group passed through inner solar system, and a comet was recorded in the annals of King Shalmaneser I as occurring in this year during a battle between the Assyrians and the Hittites. The suffix Asar means king, indicating that this Assyrian regent was called Shalman the king. Later the Israelites would confuse his name for King Jedediah, the one later known as Solomon the king. 1. Ages in Chaos, Volume 2. 2. A History of Civilization, Volume 1. 3. The Greek Myths. 10. Survivors of Atlantis. 13. Ilia, Book 4. 14. The Destruction of Atlantis. 15. The Gospel Truth. 1239 BC, 2656 AM. In the 1000th year after the Great Flood and 4000th year of the Anunnaki chronology, the most widespread world war to afflict the nations occurred when King Agamemnon of Mycenae passed over the Aegean Sea with his armies of Achaeans, Argives and Danaan. This began the 10-year-long Trojan War. Troy was not at first a prime objective. The pre-Greek forces first sacked and destroyed the coastal cities of Asia Minor and assaulted Ilium, the Trojan state. Troy was a member of the Sea Peoples Federation and had control of the Black Sea trade of gold, silver, iron, cinnabar, timber for ships, linen, hemp, dried fish, oil, and Chinese jade. The rising new Israelite-descended Mycenaean dynasty wanted free access to the Black Sea without Trojan naval blocking, but King Priam of Troy denied this, and the states of Asia Minor allied with Troy. The pretext for war is said to be the abduction of Helen, Queen of Sparta. According to Josephus in Antiquities, the Jews regarded the Spartans, called Lacedaemonians, as kin. In fact, the seal of Sparta was the same as the Israelite tribe of Dan, an eagle with a serpent in its talons. Scholars assert that the Mycenaeans and Spartans were blood related. The root of the Trojan War lay in the fact that for over 100 years the Israelites, mostly of Dan and Zebulun, populated the coastal cities of the Aegean, Asia Minor south of Ilium and west of the sea. The Danaan filled the cities of Athens, Corinth, Thebes, Argos, Mycenae and Sparta, the whole Peloponnese. The Danite royalty became the royalty of ancient Greekdom. The local Grakkoi, Achaeans and Argives were under the power of the newly empowered Israelite dynasties, and when the Spartan queen was kidnapped, the houses of the Danaan allied under the Israelite Mycenaean king, Agamemnon, whose name derives straight out of Egypt, as does the names Abydos and Thebes. The story is preserved in Homer's Iliad, where the Danaan are mentioned exactly 147 times. The name Homer derives from the Semitic Omer, or the name Emma, and the 147 may be a hint as to the origin of the Danaan, for Jacob Israel was 147 years old at his death. Ancient texts are full of such codes. The Hittite records name the Achaeans as the Ahiyawa, and Troy is found as Wilusa. To the Greeks, Troy was Ilios. Amazingly, a 13th century BC Hittite text reveals that there was a great controversy between the Hittites and Mycenaeans over Troy. For Mycenae to oppose the powerful Hittites reveals that the new Israelite-descended dynasties were indeed powerful. In Mycenaean records we find that the heroes of Trojan War fame considered mythological as the names of men in Mycenaean tablets. In Mycenaean records, we find that the heroes of Trojan war fame were considered mythological as the names of men in Mycenaean tablets. The Hittite records relate that initially the Hittites and Achaeans were maintaining good relations. Recall also that Mycenae was priorly Argos, built by the sons of Noah called the Anak, giants. This name is passed down in the form of Wanaks, a popular title for Mycenaean leaders at this time. King Priam of Troy inherited the policy of his predecessor, King Laomedon, who implemented a blockade and monopoly on all Black Sea trade. With the hostility between Mycenae and Thebes, we are not surprised to learn that the Thebans took no part in the Trojan War. The Trojan War was the Israelite contest against the Sea People Federation for control of the Hellespont. After a 7-year interregnum period in Kassite dynasty Babylon, King Enlil-nadin-Shumi ascended to the throne, his reign ending in this year, beginning a 70-year countdown to the end of the Kassite dynasty of Babylon in 1159 BC in final year of King Enlil-nadin-Ahi, the only two Kassite regents with this name in a 27-king dynasty spanning 400 years. 1. Iliad Book 1. 2. The Greek Myths. 3. Ancient Mysteries. 4. Josephus Antiquities. 5. Post-Captivity Names of Israel. 6. The Oxford Illustrated Guide. 7. Tracing Our Ancestors. 8. Ancient Mysteries. 9. The Origins of Greek Civilization. 11. The Greek Myths.